Hello and welcome to the 2019 CMO Virtual Event, Supercharge Your Market Reach with Data Enrichment. My name is Natasha Guzman with Argyle Executive Forum, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have a few administrative details to share with you, and then we'll turn things over to our esteemed speakers. First, we would like to thank ARM Treasure Data for their partnership with today's event. They've been a wonderful thought leadership partner to Argyle and are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. So thank you again to ARM Treasure Data. We appreciate you joining us today. We welcome you to stay connected during today's events. For those of you who are active tweeters, please use the hashtag ArgyleCMO. You can also follow us on Twitter at Argyle Exec Forum and be sure to join our LinkedIn group, CMO Forum. I also wanted to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we've curated based on the feedback we've received over the years from our members. Argyle is very proud and protective of this policy as it reflects our commitment to ensure the neutrality and overall value of the content presented at our events. We've worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our member support of this policy. We also have a sampling of upcoming CMO leadership forums that may be of interest to you. So currently coming up, we have October 22nd in New York City. Finally, and most importantly, please submit any and all questions that come up during today's event into the Q&A section of the interface. Following the panel discussion, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on these questions. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Miki Cole, Senior Product Marketing Manager at ARM Treasure Data. We are pleased to have Miki with us today to deliver these opening remarks. Welcome, Miki. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to be doing a webinar in this format. I think all of our great panelists that have joined us today are going to give a lot of great insight into the topic of data enrichment, which can be kind of a drier topic, but we're going to try and liven it up a little bit with a story, a marketer story. So with that, I'll move on to the agenda. We're going to take you through the day in the life of a campaign manager, and she's having some issues with her campaign with regards to reach and making some decisions. So she's going to use some extra data, enrich her data to make those decisions. So we'll put enrichment in context of what she's going through. And then we'll also do some discovery around a process that she's implemented for effective decision making, things that she needs to understand about her audience and about how best to reach them. So I want to introduce you to Molly. Molly is a marketing campaigns director, and she's been tapped by her company to do a full campaign, kind of cross-channel campaign on a new product. And this new product is kind of in a new product category for her company. So she's got some very big objectives. She's got to run this go-to-market campaign. She's got to drive demand, initial demand for this new product. And she is also going to help her teams drive those initial sales targets. But some decisions about that campaign have already been made. She's got some considerations to take in. She understands that this new product complements current products that her company already sells, but it is in a new product category, so it's not going to replace any of the products that that the company currently sells. It's priced in line with the current offerings that she has, which is good news for her. And it'll be sold in both online and retail stores. So she's got those considerations to put under her hat as she goes to make some of her campaign decisions. So, of course, she's got to understand exactly who her audience will be for this campaign, who's going to want to purchase this type of product in this product category specifically. She's going to have to understand what kind of content, what kind of messaging, what kind of positioning of this product is going to be best suited to be a foundation to her brand, right? And what's going to resonate very specifically with that audience. And then she's going to have to figure out where to reach folks, right? So she's had some experience with the different channels that we're seeing here. She's had good experience with advertising on radio and TV, and print and social. So she's going to dig into her, bag of campaign tricks essentially to help her drive campaign goals, right? She's going to start with her audience, really understanding the need for a primary and or secondary audience to target. She's going to measure things around how targeted she can get with her content, and how creative she can be with her messaging, right, around this product. And she might also understand that depending on where that audience is, she can get even more effective with her reach by tailoring some of that content, right, depending on where she's going to engage people with this new product and all of its benefits and features. So Molly gets focused, right? She really wants to kind of dig into who in her customer base currently might resonate with this new product. It's complementary, right, to products that she's sold in the past. So she really wants to figure out exactly how to reach her audience. And so she gets focused on that, the audience. The great thing about this whole campaign and some of her decisions is that her company invested in a customer data platform last year. So now Molly, as a campaign manager, has a one-stop shop, essentially, to look into her customer base. People have purchased her products in the past, understand them in one complete profile. The data has been compiled from multiple systems that she uses in terms of her email database, information about how people shop on various product sites. She might even have information coming in from her different advertising campaigns that she runs through social networks, right? And all of this has been compiled for her in one complete record per customer that gives that customer's attributes and the behaviors that they see from that customer and from their engagement with them. And it also provides her tools to go ahead and use those attributes and behaviors within an audience to go ahead and segment and find the right people for this campaign. So she's looking for folks basically that have purchased those complementary products in the past. What's a good profile for her? So that primary audience that she comes up with from this base of data, as you can see here, she's going to want to target her current customers, and her current customers kind of look like this: 25 to 35-year-olds, they're working moms and dads. They generally live in affluent neighborhoods, and they usually purchase in local stores, right, close to their homes. So she's very comfortable with this profile that she has now. She can even go back into her customer data platform to see how those particular groups of people have interacted with her in the past, right? Have they responded to different types of tactics that she's used? And what she finds out is that people that purchase in those local stores that have that profile really do respond well to the local circulars. If she puts out promotions, she can usually see a lot of good purchase activity going on, as well as getting some good response and engagement on social channels. So now she feels pretty comfortable about how she's going to reach this particular audience. But just as a reminder, she also needs to sell this product in online stores. So this product will also be purchased by customers in online stores. Well, her profile that she's come up with doesn't really have any information about how these people purchase online. She's got no online purchasing behavior to draw from, essentially. So it makes her wonder, kind of gives her pause for thought. Well, what are their buying preferences? How do they interact with products in this category online? So with this new idea of new channels and new outreach, she's kind of at a loss. She needs a little bit more information. So she sits down, figures out exactly what she needs to know. She wants to know these things. She wants to know, when do they shop? How often do they shop online? You know, in which online stores do they typically shop for this type of product? And then most importantly, when they're looking for this product category, what are they searching on? What are they looking for very specifically, right? These are all very important questions for her. So this is where data enrichment comes in. And I want to put it in clear context of what Molly's really trying to do here. What is enrichment for Molly? Well, data enrichment is really just a general term that refers to enhancing, refining, and improving raw data, right? And I'm going to double down on the idea of enhancing the data. Now, if it comes along, this concept of data enrichment comes along with some other concepts. So if you were to go down and visit your friendly local neighborhood data engineer or data scientist, and you ask them what data enrichment is, they might talk about other concepts, other processes around data that they use, data cleansing or data transformation. And if you really got into it with them, they tell you all about their ETL process. Extract, transform, and load. Fun stuff. But with data enrichment, I like to think of it in terms of a process, right? Whereby you're taking clean, transformed data that already reflects maybe a person, like a profile of a customer, or reflects potentially a product or a thing, right? And then you're adding more information to that person or to that thing. Right? And the process, the outcome of that, of course, is just more information about a customer or more information about a product, right, at the end of the day. So that's really the context for Molly with regards to enrichment. She wants to take her customer profiles and add more data. So what can she do? She can add new audiences. She can add new prospects. She can improve her demographic data and maybe behaviors around that profile that she's looking at to target, right? And then if she had some older data, maybe that was in her database, she could be using this data to sort of validate what she already has, maybe update some of that. So there's a lot of things that she could do here. But how does she put it to work, right? So how does she add this data, and then how does it help her make better decisions about this campaign? So back to her next steps, right? She needs to understand exactly when people shop, how often. She needs to understand what they're looking for. So she's going to look to some data providers for the answers to that. So she wants to know, how do I reach this audience effectively online? Well, one of the things that we'll probably key in on here as she goes to take a look at what data is available to her is the idea of an identity graph, right? So this is something that data providers, third-party data providers, would provide her to understand a segment of customers and where they are, the devices that they use to shop, right? Are they sitting on their couch using their laptops? Are they out in the world using their phones? Do they have a couple of devices that they've used in the past, maybe an iPad? And let's stitch that together. And then they'll provide more information, rich information around that in terms of their interests and perhaps maybe where they live, right, other demographics. That's interesting to her for sure with this problem that she has. The great thing is that with her customer data platform, she has the capability to take that data in along with all of her first-party sources, her own website assets, her own databases. She can import that information alongside and resolve it back to that lookalike profile, right? That target audience that she has now defined, right? So she's got a process that she can do this now on a continual basis. And not only that, but I'll point out that beyond unifying that data on a continual basis, once she gets a great set of information, she also has capabilities on top of that platform to go ahead and allow her to run different analytics, or at least allow her data people and her analysts, right, to figure out for her how likely some of these people are to purchase and how likely they are to purchase in specific channels as well, right, or be engaged within those channels. She actually has her own source of data enrichment within the platform itself. So it's great that she's able to augment, you know, her current process today with the information that she has, you know, internally with external data as well. So now she's able to go ahead and use some of that information to fill out some of the behaviors on that prospective buyer. Two things that she has discovered through this data discovery journey is that those folks that match this profile typically will purchase online during the weekdays, and that they'll make 2 or more mobile purchases a month. And this is really good insight for her. She's able then to sort of improve her decisions about how best to reach these people, right? So into her bag of campaign tactics, she's going to put in some campaigns around display ads, right? And she's also going to make sure that all of that is optimized for the mobile, right, for mobile marketing specifically. And because she has the abilities to go ahead and activate those particular campaigns, so she can get that profile from her customer data platform, and she can activate those campaigns through it and send the list of those target audiences to her social accounts that she has, to Google Ads, right? And she can track those campaign responses back through and understand how she's engaging. She can start to optimize those campaigns. So she might get feedback that all of her efforts are really resonating with folks that shop in local stores, and she's seeing the fruits of her labors really play out mostly on the weekdays, right? And that most times, if she's engaging with folks, that they're buying these types of products on the weekend. So now she's able to get really, really smart with the way that she engages with people and at what time and in what channels. She really is starting to become more effective with her reach. So with that, that kind of ends Molly's story. I want to thank everybody for listening in and engaging with that. I wanted to go ahead and move on to the panel and just remind everybody that if you have any questions about the subject and anything that we're going to be talking about on the panel, so please go ahead and type those questions into that Q&A tab for us. So, panelists, I'd like to go ahead and start the round of introductions. So, Chris, can we go ahead and start with you?
Yes, hi everyone. This is Christopher Bevel. I'm the Director of Marketing with University of Illinois, Chicago, and I oversee brand vision and direct marketing strategy programs and channels in an academic health center at the university. So essentially, I am in the role of a higher ed marketer and a healthcare marketer at the same time.
Great, thanks, Christopher. Amy, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Great. Thank you so much, Miki. My name is Amy Blumkin. I am, as the slide says, the Vice President of Brand and Marketing at the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And in my purview, I am responsible for sort of the customer journey from website, from content creation, right, through our subject matter experts in the research and on-the-ground work that we do in our 25 regional offices, and how that content comes to life in email, in direct mail, in events, and on our website. And we've recently gone through a rebrand, and so we're making sure that that information shows up and connects with our constituents.
Thank you, Amy. Sean, can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. My name is Sean McCarthy. I'm the Executive Director and Head of Analytics and Store Segmentation for Claire's. Been here for about 3 years, and yeah, love the job.
Great, thanks, Sean. And Sapna, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure can. Sapna Nanua, and I'm Head of Brand and Marketing Strategy for Epic Brokers. We do B2B insurance brokerage between the business and the insurance carriers and providers. Our primary focus that we've got going on is we're heavily M&A driven, so a lot of the work that we as a team do here is work on how do we represent the brand through the changes of the acquired entities or even our own entity, as well as the operations, and then telling that story back out to the marketplace. Back to you, Miki.
Thanks so much. I appreciate everybody introducing themselves. I kind of just wanted to start off with just a quick inquiry on the ways that data helps give your organizations better understanding of your customers. So, Chris, with your work there at the university, how do you use data, and how does it help your organization?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm essentially, marketing to both prospective students and the healthcare consumers. And also, by the way, have a little bit of a B2B marketing component there, because I'm also trying to raise our brand profile and attract referrals from area doctors and dentists, other area physicians. So it's kind of a combination of B2C and B2B, actually. When I joined the university, most of I'll focus on the story around student marketing for this one. When I joined the university, most of our prospective student engagement was really just phone events-based, and really at the point of the student applying to our program. There wasn't really a lot of insight into the prospective student's journey and how they think about choosing academic programs, what would lead them to our program, and beyond really just anecdotal observations. And so, as me being a data-driven, customer-centric marketer, my goal was, first of all, to better understand the customer, in this case, essentially a prospective doctoral graduate level student. And that ended up being essentially an exercise of building a foundation of qualitative insights. And then secondly, we use those insights combined with quantitative insights, including web analytics and other channel analytics, to essentially utilize digital best practices and optimize our channel approaches to engage with and build a relationship with these students before, and actually in many times well before the point of application. We mapped the prospective student's journey, and I did that really through a series of in-depth interviews with our target audience. The great thing about this job, by the way, working at a university, is that I have essentially a captive audience of lookalike prospective customers. So I just can literally go throughout my building and have conversations with current students because they essentially represent the target market that we're going after. And so I had those interviews, which were extremely enlightening, and really got a much deeper, richer understanding of the triggers, the motivators, the key moments and the challenges along that path that would lead a prospective student to choosing a career path in healthcare, as well as the consideration sets in their mind of how they would choose us or a similar program. And so really what we wanted to do is kind of learn what were their trusted sources of information, where were they getting their information, what search terms were they using, how do they go about choosing one school over another, and what kinds of topics would be helpful to kind of propel them down their path. One of the biggest insights that we found was that the decision to choose a career path can happen literally years before the point of application. And remember, I said we really had no connection, no engagement before that point. And so literally we were missing a huge opportunity to build brand recognition and a relationship and an understanding with these prospective students literally years before they actually choose their program. So we weren't anywhere near really the top of the funnel. We were just at the bottom of the funnel until we found that insight and started and used that insight to essentially build journey stage specific content that was helpful to them, as well as understanding, collecting their profile information to segment based on interests and based on the type of program that they're interested in. And so really this whole strategy was enabled through CRM and marketing automation implementations, which, by the way, was also new to the organization, had never been used before, and also a newly designed lead generation content center and contact form that I mentioned, as well as contact collection through the events and webinars. So really after we activated this contact engagement strategy, we began using the contact behavior data. So this is where the quantitative aspect comes in, from websites, from social, as well as interacting with our content, to really continue to optimize those conversions, to optimize the content, and to better understand, for instance, what kinds of events, whether it be in-person events or webinars, would be helpful to them to, again, build a brand affinity, as well as lead them to the path of application and ultimately accepting our offer. And that's ultimately what we were trying to do, is attract sort of the cream of the crop applicant into our program that would have multiple offers from other top tier schools, and yet with our brand affinity and building that relationship earlier on, the goal was that they would choose us over the other programs. And so far it's working pretty well.
That's great. I mean, that's just a fabulous story of taking it from beginning to end and discovering your customer journey along the way, understanding how you're going to use those insights to reach your goals. I would love to hear other stories about how different organizations are understanding their customers through data. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about how you use data in your organization to better understand your customers?
Sure, Miki, happy to. As I said at the outset, we have been undergoing a rebrand at ADL, and we are about a year and a half into our new brand and positioning. And the prior year and a half that I was here was really all around actually doing the research and the segmentation to understand who our consumers were. The idea that we have a number of customers who are in our house file, and for the longest time we were serving all of them basically the same information at the same time. And more of it was episodic around opportunities to fundraise or opportunities that are going on in the world than necessarily thinking about who our segments are and why they come to us. As a nonprofit, our product is really the service that we provide to our audience. And so what we learned is that really we have three audience segments. We have the beneficiaries of our work, people who report an incident to us of anti-Semitism or hatred, people who actually support our work and help us keep the lights on, so they're donors and foundations, and then people who actually use our research work, which may be education providers, government officials, law enforcement, technology providers, and each of those three audience segments has segments underneath, but they all have different needs from us. And what we realized through our market research was that we needed to begin to think about them distinctly as opposed to all one group, and that what they needed to learn from us and hear from us was different. And so what we were able to do was embark upon using email as a much more targeted platform. And as opposed to you just hearing from us when something bad happened or we wanted to ask for money to help support our work, we wanted to build a relationship with people based upon their areas of interest. And so we started looking at what we call drumbeat emails, and with regular occurrence, sharing information with you about what we are doing and the impact of our work so that you feel more connected, you feel more in the know as a consumer, and you feel more as an advocate for our work. And that then leads you down the journey of not being surprised when another email sort of, pops into your inbox asking you to support our work. Secondarily, we gave all of these folks the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I'm interested in the work you do with law enforcement. I'm interested in the work you do with school children. I'm interested in the work that you do from an international perspective. So we could both feed consumers as well as donors newsletters that are targeted around their areas of interest, and also make sure that when we are sharing information about incidents or information in our routine emails, that we're serving you something that won't immediately get deleted, and recognizing that email is our primary way of reaching folks. And then finally, understanding how that information all flows so that we can think about what new products do we need to ideate and bring to market? What new areas of research do we need to be doing? What kinds of events do we need to be creating or hosting based upon what our audience is looking for? And much of that has helped manifest itself into our large-scale annual event that we are hosting in New York, which is our annual summit on anti-Semitism. And it's through understanding what folks care about and want to know about that we're then also able to use that to think about what are the breakout sessions that we have. So it's really, starting at the tip of understanding who are these three areas or audiences for us, what do they need from us, and then how does that flow into every touch point that we have with consumers and with donors.
That's great. Thanks so much for that perspective on how you're learning to dive into better content and better products for your consumers. Stephanie, I wanted to ask you kind of the same question, get your perspective, how your organization is better understanding your customers through data.
Yeah, so we're a heavily sales-driven organization, and when we have to introduce a new brand into our existing process on a regular basis, we usually don't have that type of lead generation knowledge in our back pocket because of the systems that these other companies might have been using or how they might have been tracking it. So we're almost continuously evolving our customer journeys, trying to keep the major milestones in place, but then understanding that what that customer might have experienced in a historical perspective and what they would experience today, trying to create some sort of brand synergy across all of those together. So we do a lot of analysis with the data and create new data and go back and merge it to be able to try and kind of backfill the story so that we are going to, at some point in the future, stand back and say, this is what the greater theme and the brand experience is as it associates to the various journeys that we've been able to integrate within our organization with the various brands.
Cool. So what are some of those most important pieces for you, Sapna, of information to kind of do some of this backfilling that you're talking about so that you can understand your potential customers a little bit better?
Yeah, so we actually try and create unique identifiers and a subset of those because, as you can imagine, a lot of the data has been developed differently through the organization. So we take your basic kind of customer data, then we build out certain persona attributes, whether it be their shopping styles, their touch points. We also track friction points. So we monitor when there might be a lag in an experience and what that might mean, because that could be a very simple answer for something we've done in the past, but one of the brands that have come into our organization, they may not have had that type of experience to expose their customer bases to. So those are some of the higher categories, and then we drill down to very specific data details there.
Great, thanks. Amy, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more about the really important pieces of information that really built out some of those interests that you keyed in on to create this new content. What were some of the key details there of what you needed to know about those your clients specifically? Amy, are you still there? Okay, maybe we can go ahead and just keep rolling here with some of the questions.
Oh.
Sean, you haven't... Sorry, Amy, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Okay, great.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I missed the question, and I apologize.
No, that's okay, because you were talking very specifically about really digging into your client's interests. And so what were some really detailed, like important pieces of information that you needed to understand in order to identify those interests, right, and tailor your content?
Great. So, so there were several things that we needed to understand. We needed to understand, and I'm going to get a little granular here, and I will apologize, but we needed to understand things like giving behavior, right? So as a nonprofit, a big component of our donors is giving history. How often, how much, what triggers those donations, and so that was sort of one component. Another component was sort of phase of life. Because we have segmented our market into our primary donors, donors that should give but haven't, and so we needed to look at, it was values-based and also demographic. So we needed to understand what are the things that are important to you in your life, and what phase of life are you in, so that we could think about making sure that we are sharing that information with you in the appropriate way. The other things that we needed to understand are sort of what things have you come to in the past. So we are, as an organization that is 106 years old with 25 regional offices, we have events regularly in our regions as well as national. And so what are those things that you actually come to, so that we can think about how we optimize those and we serve you up information that you can understand, and that also will entice you to come again or to donate and help us service, the greater public.
Great. Thanks for diving into those details, actually. I think they're really, really important. Kind of switching up gears a little bit, something that we're all familiar with is sometimes just shopping behavior because we're all consumers, right? And Sean, we haven't really heard from you about any of data discoveries that you've been on recently, and what information is really driving your day-to-day. So can you take us through kind of your day in the life as a data-driven marketer at Claire's?
Yeah, so thanks very much, Miki. Yeah, as a retailer, and especially with a primary demographic, you know, as we say in our mission statement, you know, we serve her from 6 months to 60 plus years, right? Because we've got stuff in our store for every one of those purposes, and whether she gets her ears pierced as an infant or she gets her ears pierced as a retiree, you know, we're there for her, and really trying to understand who she is, because for so much of her life with us, she's legally not allowed to identify herself as anybody, right? It's a big challenge we face with our primary demographic, in that it's her mom or her dad purchasing, and so how we household becomes very important, because for us, not only are we serving that wide range, but most of our product we design and make ourselves, right? So for us to know that we're making the right kind of product that she's going to continue to want and love, and that will continue to endear her to our brand, we'll be able to serve her what's trending for her, knowing where she is within the life cycles, within all of the different departments we offer, is incredibly important. And so as she goes from 4 to 5 to 7 to 8 and on, understanding what are the products that are driving her, what are the attributes of those products, how are they evolving over time, and then from that, abstracting to more generic long-term patterns, so that, you know, as a fashion trend business, we can make sure that we're getting into the right things at the right time and pulling back the reins on those things that have peaked. And that's really where, for us, just knowing who she is within that household becomes incredibly important for us.
Great. So really digging into the where and the why for this group of buyers specifically. And so how does understanding that person help you sort of expand your horizons, right? Really expand your reach towards the next group of buyers?
Yeah, so for us, what's been really great, and I started this in previous retail lives, this journey of, once social media became prevalent, it's not enough just to advertise on it. Our consumers are shouting what they want when they want it. And the ability to go out and look at that and see that, right, where they're public, on the platforms that are public, right? Certain social media platforms, they're private, so you can't have a relationship with them. But where they are public, taking advantage of and ingesting, what are the people who are our demographic saying? What are they liking? What are they following in the images they're liking on Instagram? On the, you know, what are the color palettes? What are the objects, right? All of those things, they're letting us know freely in the public space, right? And for a business like ours, it's so incredibly important to take advantage of that, because now I can know who's truly influencing her, right? Right. We know influencers are necessary, right? They're the models of old. They're the new models for retail and fashion. But even just like with previous models, consumers are wise to that. They know they're getting paid to promote these products. And so finding out who their real influencers are, who are they liking, who are they following, that may not be the person with 1 million follows and is monetizing that. And understanding what are the trends that they're going after and how we can ingest that and make that a part of our design process and buying process has been incredibly beneficial.
So I definitely hear that it's not about mass marketing, but really about being good at understanding how best to reach the right people, right? And that's really good, you know, a concept, I think. given the current consumer data environment, how can we best use, information to our advantage to gain more customers? And I really kind of want to dig in a little bit more with Sapna on this. Given the current environment, how do you use more consumer data in a time of privacy to gain an advantage today?
Yeah, so we've got two challenges when we talk about the gain of customers. One is that they are naturally handed to us with our M&As, and we have to work through ensuring that we don't lose them. And the gain experience in that process is really how do we stay consistent or amplify that experience to keep them long-term gain. And then the second part of it is, like with any industry, we really are facing a lot of change and change at a rapid pace, more so than in the past. And so, what we really try and do is that balance, that mix between traditional and digital and the privacy associated with it by a legalese manner, but then also just general privacy. We work with a lot of different demographics because of the industry that we're in with insurance. We have a lot of new buyer personas that operate very differently. And then we also have some legacy experiences that are very much innate to the general experience that we have. So we really have this myriad experience overall of how we're facing the challenge in providing those solutions for the overall environment that we've got in front of us.
Got it. Thanks for that. Because Molly did a lot of data discovery on her own, right, from the story, I just wanted to get everybody's perspective on the usage of third-party data, whether they've used that in the past, or whether they're currently using vendors today to kind of augment the data that they already have. So Amy, can we go ahead and start with you? Are you currently using third-party today to drive any sort of campaigning or to drive more information about your clientele or customers?
Yeah, so we are, and we are also exploring further usage of third-party data. So our way of reaching consumers outside of sort of live events is really through email and through direct mail, as what you would expect for a nonprofit. And so much of our direct mail is sharing lists and using third-party data to reach our current consumers and to reach lookalikes who would care about our issues. We also use some of that when we do some of our online work. We are in the process of transitioning to one global end-to-end CRM for all of our organization. And as a part of that transition, we have been looking into third-party data overlays so that we can better target, as I talked about, our constituents by the issues that they care about. We recognize that there are a lot of different ways of going about that, but for us right now, we haven't yet dipped our toe into that in email marketing, but we very much use it in our direct mail.
Great, thanks. Chris, I wanted to ask you kind of the same question about your current uses of third-party data or your experience with using third-party data for campaigning or insights.
Well, we don't use second or third-party data much currently, but I could totally see using it to solve a couple of problems that we have. So, for instance, I guess you could call it a form of third-party data. We do, download income demographic data from census bureaus and that sort of thing. And we use that as a proxy for income targeting segmentation. We have clinical practices that we feel would resonate well with certain income brackets, and so, but we don't have any income data that I can use as a marketer. And so we essentially use a location-based strategy at the zip code level because we know what the median household income levels are for each zip code, and then we can use that as a proxy for an income targeting approach. But beyond that, I mean, we really don't have a more sophisticated usage or source of third-party data. However, I would definitely like to be able to do that because, I mean, it would give me as a marketer a more well-rounded understanding of, what triggers a healthcare need, and what messaging would best resonate at that point of need with those consumers, that particularly the ones that have never interacted with our brand, or maybe even worse, who may have an incorrect perception of our brand. That could include, if I had to guess, signals sent by social behaviors. It might be signals that we could use from retail transactions, or it could be life event signals. But we could use that kind of knowledge to kind of further refine our targeting and build better content that resonates with those audiences at the highest point of need. And of course, with all of this as a healthcare marketer, I mean, patient privacy is of utmost concern to us, and so we would have to operate within the boundaries of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a concern for a lot of people, obviously. People need to be a lot smarter these days with the data that they can go out and procure. Sapna, do you also have experience with third-party data and using that and enabling that for your company?
Yeah, I do. Currently for the company, we don't have it as a part of our practice, but in the past, the real value that we found out of it was jump-starting new marketing campaigns, whether it be email or webinar or a series of that. They really kind of helped get the message out there so that we could start to finesse our approach and get some early reads on reactions and kind of behavior. I'd say some tips that we learned along the way as we were going through the third-party relationships with data was a lot to do around the negotiations of the contracts. Not just in looking for how clean is the data, but also how well did it perform. And we created tiers of performance associated to our negotiations so that the cost structure would be based on at what part of the conversion and how much value as a business and marketing objective did we find out of it, and that's kind of how we would manage the third-party data cost and relationship at an ongoing basis.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Very, very good advice. You definitely need to inquire initially about quality, cleanliness, and how updated it is, But putting some performance metrics on it, that's definitely taking it to the next level. So we're getting up on time, but I wanted to throw it to Sean as well to understand his advice for potentially using third-party data, how he's using that, and how he's enabling that for his company.
Yeah, thanks, Miki. For us and previous retailers I've been at, the first tier of data that we've always gone after is just what you can get from the Experian, IRI, Nielsen's of the world, where when you have your customers' hashed payment records, how you can use those to find out what other companies are they shopping. When do they come to you sequencing-wise? But what's getting really fascinating now is with everyone having a cell phone and how ubiquitous they are, is that a lot of people opt into their cell phone companies' generic tracking, right? And that data is available through various companies where you can know literally the shopping journey of a day throughout a mall, right? So this customer goes from this store, browse time, dwell time, all those types of things. Then they come to mine. After mine, they go to this one and buy all the demographics at the same time. And so you can really, where we're using that very strongly is in growth opportunities. Where do we see our customers going as competitors close in this retail, very tough mall retail market? Are they coming to us? Are they going to other people? How can we win them? And then also where are there markets where we have a whole bunch of people that are like the people that shop with us currently, and there's nowhere for them to shop us, and so that's a growth market for us. So that's another place where third-party data is incredibly useful and valuable to us right now.
Fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you all so much for your fantastic insights. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over because I think we've definitely got a captive audience that would definitely be interested in asking you some more questions. So Natasha, do we have questions out there?
Yes, we do. So the first question that we have is, how did you utilize data enrichment specifically for the brand rollout and drive adoption of the new brand?
Hi, this is Amy. So I'm guessing that question is directed to me as well as others.
Yeah.
So, okay. Can you just repeat it so that I make sure that I answer all aspects of the question?
Yes. Okay. How did you utilize data enrichment specifically for the brand rollout and drive adoption of the new brand?
Great. So, without giving away my trade secrets or things that I am not allowed to share, what we did was we looked specifically at so we used data to first understand who our segments are, and we did that through a pretty robust survey of current donors as well as the general public, and we used a representative sampling of that. And what we were able to do then with that was then in understanding sort of, so we came up with two segments of people who are engaged, people who are involved with our work because of our broad mission in fighting anti-Semitism, and people who are involved with our work because of the work that we do sort of fighting all hate. And we took that and we were able to then help our regional offices understand how to think about their donors. And so in the absence of our full data overlay, we were able to take this and sort of, using personalities that we created for both our current donors as well as our potential donors, worked with our regional offices to be able to help them understand who on their boards, who in their meetings were in these various segments, so that they would know how to talk to them about the brand and how to pull on those elements of our work that would be the most interesting to them, and then how to also invite them to that work. So that where we have a segment of folks who are skewing younger and who are involved in, who are not yet involved with our work, we were able to help our regional offices understand that before you just go out and reach out to these folks, you first have to explain to them what it is that we do and what the benefit is. And so giving them the tools to use to be able to best reach them, and sort of hearing back from them how it worked. So it was really very data-driven, and then it was bringing it into sort of personalities, and so we created personas around each of our segments so that people could immediately identify who within their sphere fit that. But it makes it a little bit more fun and relatable as opposed to just saying, here are the 5 attributes. And the best example that I have of that is years ago when I was at American Express, one of the market segments that we had for our gold card was called Country Club Kathy. And when you give somebody that kind of a name based upon data, you automatically conjure up all of the imagery that you need to around who a Country Club Kathy would be, right? the segment would skew female, likely not employed, out of the home, likely sort of very active in the community, and now you can apply those attributes and understand what it is that they're going to connect with around your work. So I hope that was helpful.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Does anybody else want to answer that question, or not? Moving on to the next one.
Yeah, this is Sapna. I would say for us, what we did was we actually almost scored and created some persona light for the business that we were looking to roll it out to the brand along the journey path. And from there, we then looked at the kind of account holder who owned the account of that client relationship to understand tenure. So years of being a customer, and then also what kind of organization they came from. We developed communication strategies associated to that to help with the brand rollout.
Okay, perfect. So moving on to question number 2. First, how do you keep the brand relevant to your audience given the frequent changes that you've noted?
So I'll go ahead and jump in here because my consumer is probably the most fickle of all. She's a little girl. I have 3 of those. So speaking from experience here, for us, it really is, if you don't keep up to date with the with what's going on in social media and out there constantly looking for that pulse, it gets hard. We're all very fortunate with a fantastic merchandising organization, a buying team who really does a great job going out and grabbing the anecdotal qualitative data, but marrying that up, and same with our design team, our in-house design team, but marrying that up with being able to see how those trends start, right? You see the likes and the follows start to swell other places, right? And it's even within the same people, right? So they're liking the same people, or they're liking the same, but the pictures they're liking and what's changing within those pictures, right? Things that are beyond just the typical seasonal changes of color palettes and things like that. Being able to really see how that evolves over time, that's where we use that as inspiration, along with all the work the design team does to look at what are the big fashion houses doing, what are the high-end fashion brands doing, and then what our buying team, combine that with what our buying team does. But if we don't connect all 3 of those together, it doesn't work nearly as effectively.
Okay. Does anybody else want to answer that question? All right. Moving on to the next one. What do you do to acquire new customers and retain new customers, and how do you get that customer data?
This is Chris. I can jump in on part of that. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I mean, we essentially use a contact inquiry form on our website, actually for both the student marketing and the patient marketing. So we at the top of the funnel, we use organic search engine optimization as well as paid advertising to draw them into our brand, and then once there, we try to get them to a call to action to essentially begin a conversation and to tell us a little bit more about them. So, that takes the form of a contact form where they will submit some contact information, but also a little bit more about who they are and what their and interests and needs are. And then, that essentially flows into our CRM and our marketing automation, and we can use that to build out segmentation and further, personalize the engagement that we have with them, whether it be to, continue to nurture that lead or to ultimately serve to, as a retention device to keep them engaged and loyal to the brand. So that's worked pretty well for us, I would say.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So the customer data environment is full of touch points that can be measured, but assigning value to these touch points is a challenge. How do you deal with this challenge?
This is Sapna. I can jump in on this one. So we are, with our challenge, ours is that we're always having to look at it anyways with all the new databases that are being merged together. And the way that we've approached how to kind of find value to help our teams focus has been honestly kind of creating a criteria that some of the behaviors or touch points don't even make the reports until they hit a certain threshold. And then after they hit thresholds, we might have a significant series of touch points, and then we start creating trend analysis off of that, because our challenge is also that with the change of the industry, we don't actually know just yet what that science is. And so with our trend analysis, we're continuing to test and measure and then find our favorite the favorisms that we have on each of those particular segments and quantifying that down the road to ensure that that's truly a successful touch point at that point. So that's kind of, we're in the middle of that strategy right now, but that's the end result that we're looking to achieve.
If I could just add one other way of looking at it is from the mathematical side will be just more around if you're doing your, whether it's a PCA or the various methods within your machine learning algorithms to look at what components actually, what dimensions actually matter in my models. I think you can very quickly evaluate if your data science group it says, like, look, we know we just bought this third-party data, and of it, this is what's relevant, and this is what's not, or this is what's meaningful for the models, this is what's not. It's not a strict ROI financial implication, but I think it helps from a pure what dimensionality can I reduce in the future. Those exercises are always very helpful. Obviously, you need the help of a data science group to make sure you can do that in a way that's mindful of what the business is trying to answer.
All right. This is going to be the last question. Does your organization have any unconventional uses for enriched data?
I wouldn't say we have unconventional ways. I would say what is not common practice and is quickly becoming a very prevalent topic is just everything around privacy in general. We just got off the heels of GDPR. We're working on CCPA and the New York Privacy Act, and so not unconventional by means, but also something that we are trying to understand and develop in line with our data strategies.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, I want to, thank you all for joining us here today, and thank you so much for this fantastic virtual event. And thanks again to Miki for doing a great job at moderating. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.